Live across Queensland, this is 7 News with Max Futcher.
Good afternoon. Our top stories on 7, broadening the battlefield. The US strikes an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean. The first plane load of Australians makes it home from the Middle East, but thousands remain stranded. Canada's Prime Minister addresses Parliament, calling Australia a strategic cousin. The effort to build a new middle power block. And the new evidence that all those slip, slop, slap campaigns have made a real difference. Iran is toast. That's the assessment of US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth 6 days into the war. It comes as America broadens the battlefield, sinking an Iranian Navy frigate in the Indian Ocean with the loss of at least 80 lives. 7 News correspondent Jacqueline Robson is live in Tel Aviv. Jackie, Iranian servicemen and women are now targets in international waters.
Max, the Americans are really wanting to send a message to the Iranians that they are safe nowhere, hitting this warship in international waters 40 kilometres off the southern coast of Sri Lanka and half a world away from the conflict here in the Middle East. That distress call went out and the Sri Lankan Navy responded, finding 87 were dead, 32 were rescued, but it's understood around 180 were on board at the time. The US Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, says this is the first time an enemy ship has been sunk by torpedo since World War II. That's certainly the case from the Americans at least. But Iran is continuing to return fire with attacks towards Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. But also Turkey. An Iranian ballistic missile was shot down by NATO air defences operating out of the Mediterranean. Turkey is now in talks with NATO members about this widening and escalating war. The death toll continues to rise in Iran. More than 1,000 have been injured, 1,000 have been killed and many more injured. But the Trump administration is continuing with that strong language that it will continue to pummel Iran for as long as it takes.
America is winning decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy. They are toast, and they know it.
Now, the ground offensive by Israeli troops into southern Lebanon is continuing. Tens of thousands of people have been displaced by that military action. They're now holed up in shelters as that continues. Meanwhile, Kurdish groups in northern Iraq are reportedly preparing to be called up by the US, which could mean a cross-border operation into Iran. Max, we wait to see how that unfolds, but it's certainly not slowing down.
Jacqueline Robson there with that report. Meanwhile, the first Australians to escape the war zone arrived home on a flight from Dubai last night. It comes as emergency response teams from the Department of Foreign Affairs heads out, ramping up efforts to help thousands of others that are still stranded. Chris Marr has the latest.
It was one of the most watched flights in the world. Emirates flight EK414 touched down to Sydney's International Airport around 10:30 last night. It was the first flight back to Australia to make it out of Dubai, the country where just nights ago the airport was hit by an Iranian strike. There were joyous scenes in the arrivals terminal as some 200 Australians finally returned home into the welcome arms of loved ones. There were plenty of hugs and tears as they savoured a moment of overwhelming relief. Among the Aussies returning home, students from Sydney's Barker College. And while many paid thousands of dollars to secure a seat, it was worth it.
Everyone was cheering and clapping. Quite emotional, yeah. Glad to be home.
Feeling fabulous. Over the moon. Yeah, she's back. My brother, my nephew, and my mom are back, safe and sound. I'm so happy. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Also among the relieved relatives, a familiar face for the Channel 7 family.
It's a huge relief. Like kids in a war zone, you realise how lucky you are living here.
There are still around 115,000 Australians in the Middle East, many desperate to find a way home and out of the war zone. 3 more flights have made it out and are currently in the air on the way home. They'll arrive tonight and tomorrow morning, and there'll surely be more joyous scenes as we saw last night.
Thanks, Chris. Well, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has called Australia a strategic cousin. The comment came as he addressed federal parliament to sell his message that middle powers need to work more closely together. As Josh Martin reports, the Iran conflict loomed large over talks with Anthony Albanese.
Good afternoon. Both leaders say they want to see a de-escalation in the Middle East, but support the moves by the United States and Israel to prevent Iran getting nuclear weapons. Anthony Albanese greeting Mark Carney with a hug and a handshake as cannons fired at Parliament's forecourt this morning. Inside, the chamber was packed with senators and MPs keen to hear from a leader known for his straight talking. The Canadian PM saying middle powers must form coalitions or hegemons will increasingly dictate outcomes. A reference there to China, Russia and the United States. The leaders also signing a series of agreements today on critical minerals, artificial intelligence, superannuation fund investment and agreeing to work on sharing satellite data.
Although we could not be further physically apart, Canada and Australia are strategic cousins. In the post-rupture world, the nations that are trusted and can work together will be quicker to the punch.
Australia and Canada are middle powers in a world that is changing. We cannot change it back. But we can back ourselves, back our citizens, and back each other.
Middle powers cannot simply build higher walls and retreat behind them. We must work together.
Economic shocks from the Iran war are now going well beyond oil. Farmers say increased fertiliser costs will be passed on to consumers at the checkout. Prices for urea have jumped by $150 a tonne following the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
We're worried. We're worried that prices could double or triple. We're worried that we might not even be able to get it.
It would absolutely flow on into the price of bread, into the price of beef and meat. Chicken.
Some politicians say it's a wake-up call for Australia to become self-reliant.
Josh Martin in Canberra. Queensland Parliament is set to pass landmark laws on gun violence and hate speech as part of the state government's response to the Bondi massacre. Let's go to state political editor Marlena Wapp. Marlena, the vote will happen soon.
Yes, Max, after 2 days of debate, MPs will vote on the bill named Fighting Anti-Semitism and Keeping Guns Out of the Hands of Terrorists and Criminals. There are tougher penalties for illegal guns, new offences for drive-by shootings and attacks on places of worship. Then there are the controversial hate speech laws, which will ban two phrases, from the river to the sea, and globalise the Intifada, those chants common at pro-Palestine protests. Now, the government's defended last-minute changes to strip the Attorney-General of broad powers to ban more phrases in the future. The Premier saying this week he has listened after backlash about what it would mean for freedom of speech. So a big piece of legislation set to be voted on in the next hour.
It is, Marlena, and we've done a lot of work on it.
Why the change in stance?
17 days for this bill, less than 24 hours for the amendments.
The government botched this up from the start.
When it comes to the history of cutting debate short in this place, the Labor Party have no parallel.
Now, despite its reservations, Labor is expected to vote in support of the bill, Max.
Marlena Wapp at State Parliament. Police have charged the man they shot in the shoulder beside a busy road on the Sunshine Coast yesterday. The 32-year-old allegedly approached officers with a gun before they opened fire. Liam Bland reports.
Good afternoon. With the alleged gunman in hospital, a lawyer appeared for him in the Maroochydore Magistrates Court this afternoon. Dominic Rees-Brinham is facing a dozen charges, including 2 of possessing a handgun. The 32-year-old was shot in the shoulder on the roadside in Woombai yesterday afternoon. He'd allegedly been on the run following an incident the day before. Police say Brinham crashed his car, then hitched a ride with a passerby.
He chucked stuff in the back of my seat, and then my tub was open, so he chucked the rest of his stuff just in there. And then from there he said, just take off and take me around the corner.
They drove a short distance to Woombai Palmwoods Road, and moments later police arrived with guns drawn.
And they were like, oh, he's got a gun. That's when I was like, oh, I've ducked into my car, like behind the dash, and then I think from there he just like ran off, and yeah, I think they shot him.
Oscar Brownbill says he won't be stopping to help strangers again. Brinham's lawyers haven't been able to speak with him yet. The case was adjourned until March 30. In the news at 6, we'll show you the dramatic moments as the shooting unfolded.
Thanks, Liam. The inquest into the murder of Gold Coast mother Kelly Wilkinson has been extended. A lawyer acting on behalf of her family made an 11th hour request as hearings were about to wind down. They presented new allegations that police at Southport Station turned her away 4 days before she was killed. Ms Wilkinson was stabbed and set on fire by her estranged husband, Brian Johnston, at their Arundel home in April 2021.
We would like to thank the coroner for having a closer look at the issues around Kelly's death, and we look forward to seeing the recommendations for future improvements.
A new hearing date is yet to be announced. Now, for a look at the weather, and Tony, the cyclone watch has now been cancelled around Cairns.
Yes, Max, the chance of our monsoonal low becoming a tropical cyclone is now very slim, but we are still expecting some rough weather. The low sits a little bit over 200 kilometres offshore from Cairns, but it doesn't have that deep cloud necessary to intensify. It's actually looking quite thick at the moment. The low is still expected to hit the coast, likely south of Cairns during the day tomorrow. As it does, well, we should see a bump in winds about 80 k's an hour on its southern side, which isn't quite enough for warnings at the moment. So the main threat is rain. For now, we do have a severe weather warning running from near Innisfail to north of Cooktown, including Cairns, with that main threat of flash flooding. Now, flood watch extends down past Mackay and well inland in the blue areas here. Catchments are saturated and could rise quickly. But as you can see from the rain totals forecast here, there is also potential for flooding over southern Queensland before it all likely clears around Monday. Max, still plenty happening. I'll be back soon with tomorrow's forecast.
All right, thanks, Tony. See you then. Coming up in 7 News, pricey parking. Just how profitable is Brisbane Airport? Queensland kids have fewer moles. The success of decades-long SunSafe campaigns. And Elon Musk faces court accused of securities fraud. In 7 News, the moment a US torpedo strikes an Iranian ship, plus fresh warnings about overseas travel. Inside an alleged gunman's Sunshine Coast rampage.
That guy's got a gun, eh? That guy's got a gun.
The big changes proposed for e-bikes and e-scooters explained. And new hope for skin cancer rates. 7 News at 6. Brisbane may not have the most expensive airport parking in the country, but it's right up there. The ACCC has found it's more lucrative than any other in Australia. A new analysis shows 60% of what's charged is pure profit.
The ACCC report actually points out if people want to save money, their best bet is to book in advance online and to use AirPark a little further away from the terminal, but it does offer significant savings.
Sydney has the country's most expensive airport parking, Melbourne the cheapest. Well, it seems all those long-running skin cancer campaigns like Slip, Slop, Slap have had a real and lasting effect. At least that's the finding of a 25-year study conducted by the QIMR Berghofer Medical Research Institute. And joining me now is the study lead, Professor Nick Martin. Professor, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. First of all, what did the study involve?
Well, we asked twins from the Brisbane area to come into our institute, and we counted their moles, and we measured their skin colour and their hair colour and a lot of other melanoma risk factors, and we started that in 1992, and we did it for about 25 years. We didn't finish till 2016. Our main interest in using twins was to look at the relative importance of genetics and environment on these melanoma risk factors, particularly mole count. But what we observed when we came to look at the data was this steady decline in the number of moles on the skin of Queensland school kids. This interested us a lot, and we thought of various explanations. We attribute that to the success of the sun prevention campaigns that have been carried on here for the last several decades, most famously the Slip, Slop, Slap campaign, and those were sort of public health campaigns that really came out of work that was done here at this institute, showing that by far the biggest risk factor for melanoma in later life was the number of moles on the skin, and that these moles have their roots in childhood sun exposure. So let's keep those things going.
It's fascinating that you've used twins in this study. So you say fewer moles. So how does that relate to the risks of skin cancer?
This reduction in mole numbers that we've seen is actually going to, we project, result in a 75% reduction in the incidence of melanoma in this current generation, which is absolutely huge. Amazingly, through this campaign, it looks as if we've really turned this round. So I think it's something to celebrate.
And are those results directly attributable to SunSafe campaigns? And for that matter, what do they tell us about targeting campaigns going forward into the future?
We do not have direct evidence that it's the effect of those. All we can say is that we see that reduction in kids, and we can't find anything else to attribute it to. So we think that's the probable explanation. Schools should keep up those no hat, no play policies. The council should keep on putting awnings over playgrounds and so on, and mums and dads should keep on being strict with their kids about getting blocked up and putting on the right protective gear when you go out in the sun.
Will do. I'll take that message on board, and good to see the message is getting through. Professor Nick Martin from QIMR Berghofer Medical Research Centre, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Elon Musk has taken the stand at a trial in California brought by Twitter investors. The class action suit accuses the world's richest man of securities fraud. A claim that after he agreed to buy the social media platform in 2022, he talked down the company so he could snap up shares at a discount. Musk told the hearing he didn't realise his attacks, often on Twitter, would affect the stock price or hurt investors. A light plane has crashed into a house shortly after takeoff on a training flight in Arizona. It clipped the roof of one home before hitting the side of another and coming down in the backyard. The instructor, his student and a person on the ground weren't badly hurt.
This could have been way different with houses involved, could have been multiple house fires, but fortunately everyone that they are in stable condition.
Local officials say the plane suffered a mechanical problem. In just a moment, Grand Prix fever grips Melbourne. Some queue through the night to get pole position on day one. And in sport, the Broncos zero in on a replacement for Payne Haas.
When the world is changing and it impacts us, Australia turns to 7. Australia turns to trust. Chief Correspondent Chris Reason live from Tel Aviv from sunrise to 6 p.m. every night and special coverage
on 7 News.
Grand Prix fever is building in Melbourne. Thousands have queued at Albert Park for day one, with some lining up at 9:30 last night. Nick McCallum reports.
It's the race before the race, and it's absolutely crazy. From around 9 o'clock last night, people started queuing at the race entrance gates. Now at 9:30 this morning, when the gates opened, hundreds of people sprinted a kilometre or so to Melbourne Walk. Melbourne is the only Grand Prix with a laneway dedicated to the F1 drivers. They get out of their cars, they walk along signing autographs and posing for pictures. So all these mad people are sprinting to try and get pole position to get access to their heroes. It's do or die.
It's all about just getting a good start off the line, I reckon, and then it's elbows out until barricades.
It's a once-a-year thing, you know. I'll get over the sleep deprivation next week and I'll be fine. No regrets.
Is it worth it?
I think we're all asking ourselves that same question right now. I think definitely, once you get there, it's definitely worth it. I think it's that anxiety that kind of makes it seem maybe not so much.
Can I ask you, why are you running?
Oh, to get there first.
Why is it so important?
To be better than everyone else, obviously.
Anzac Station has only recently opened. It's 400 metres away from the nearest entrance to the racetrack. They hope that will improve public transport. They have been concerned about security. There are police here with long arms, as there were at the Boxing Day test and also at the Australian Open. It's all part of wanting the season opener.
And if you're going to have race one, I think this is the year to have race one. Just the new regulations, there's so much hype about that and so much uncertainty, and I think that's what builds sport and interest is uncertainty.
Today's racing is mainly the supercars. The F1 drivers, including Melbourne's own Oscar Piastri, will not be on the track until tomorrow's practice laps.
They are the true fans, but we've dragged Steve away from watching the F1. What's happening elsewhere, Steve?
I'm just doing my job.
Oh, sure.
First of all, to NRL, and the Broncos have emerged as serious front runners to sign Warriors enforcer Mitch Barnett. Brisbane coach Michael Maguire confirming he's met with the Blues origin star as the Premiers ramp up their pursuit of a replacement for South Sydney-bound Payne Haas. Barnett is returning to Australia at the end of the season on compassionate grounds.
Yeah, I met with him. I talked to a lot of the players that I've coached over time, and he's one of them too. He's a great character and obviously my style of player.
The Broncos begin their title defence with a prelim final rematch against Penrith tomorrow night at Suncorp Stadium. Lions forward Charlie Cameron says he is again full of confidence after undertaking a personal reflection and re-evaluation in the off-season. He admits teammates rallied around him in his recovery from a disappointing personal 2025.
Like I said, new year, probably a different approach and understanding, and can't wait to show everyone that I can probably still match it with the best.
At 6, we will preview the opening matches with Luke Hodge. Kiwi Finn Allen has blasted the fastest ever century at a men's T20 World Cup to power New Zealand into the final. Chasing 170 against the unbeaten South Africans, Allen smacked 10 fours and 8 sixes to motor the Black Cats to a 9-wicket win. The opener bringing up his ton off only 33 balls.
And bingo! It's the fastest T20 100 in the World Cup ever for the men.
West Indies' Chris Gale held the previous record off 47 balls. New Zealand faced the winner of the second semi-final between England and India. Max, plenty more sport coming up at 6 o'clock. Got to get back to watch the Super Cup.
Of course you do. All right. Thanks, Steve. Coming up after the break, as war rages in the Middle East, Aussies advised to put their overseas holiday plans on hold. The government flags big changes for e-bikes and e-scooters in Queensland. So what do riders think? And later, after the weather, Ed Sheeran's recipe for a food ATM.
Live across Queensland, this is 7 News with Max Futcher.
Recapping our top stories this afternoon, and the first plane load of Australians have made it home from the Middle East. The Department of Foreign Affairs has now dispatched emergency response teams to the region to help the thousands still stranded. A man is facing a dozen charges after being shot by police at Woomba yesterday. They include charges of possessing a handgun. Dominic Rees-Brynham remains in hospital. And new research shows 25 years of sun-safe campaigns have made a huge difference. The number of kids with moles has dropped by almost half, meaning far fewer will suffer skin cancer in later life. The United States has extended its war on Iran thousands of kilometres away into the Indian Ocean. It's sunk an Iranian frigate off Sri Lanka with almost 90 crew dead and around 100 missing.
There hasn't been a video like this in decades. A periscope showing the massive blast after an American sub destroyed an Iranian Navy ship. It's the first time since World War II an American sub sunk an enemy ship with a torpedo.
Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15.
As the Pentagon describes sweeping success in the war's first 4 days.
They are toast, and they know it.
The Pentagon released videos of U.S. strikes on Iranian missile launchers, limiting Iran's ability to carry out attacks, saying the number of ballistic missiles fired by Iran has plummeted 86% since Saturday, and that Iranian drone attacks are down 73%.
The two most powerful air forces in the world, the U.S. and Israel, are dominating the skies of the world's largest state sponsor of terror.
But Iran is still firing back and is attempting to widen the conflict even further, now targeting Turkey, a NATO member. NATO's air defenses shot down an Iranian missile that Turkey says penetrated its airspace. NATO's Secretary General today backing the U.S. and Israeli operation that killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei.
NATO will defend every inch of NATO territory. We are all better off with him gone and with the nuclear and ballistic capability being beaten and degraded.
All as Israel expands its strikes on the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah in Lebanon. Iran's Red Crescent says more than 1,000 Iranians have been killed in the war so far.
Aviation safety experts are warning travel could be compromised for the next 4 to 5 months. Rising fuel prices will almost certainly be passed on by the airlines as uncertainty grows about transiting through the Middle East. Aviation editor Blake Johnson has the details.
The warning comes not so much for safety but for price and for the ability to keep your travel plans in place. The former head of safety at Qantas says it could be at least 5 months of disruptions and higher airfares because of the flow-on effects of people rebooking travel at the moment.
I think the knock-on effect of increased fuel costs, reduced availability and new routing of routes will have an effect for the next 4 to 5 months.
Airfares are already climbing towards extraordinary figures.
Economy fares are around that $5,000 return and business are around the 17 or 18,000 at the moment.
It'll be a while before William Keogh goes back to Dubai. He was on the first Emirates flight out that landed in Sydney yesterday. He got home to Melbourne today.
I've never felt a plane move that fast and, almost got thrown to the back of your seat. We took off incredibly quick, but when they were, trying to get up to altitude, it was, we were moving along.
It is a big travel year for many. The Commonwealth Games in Scotland, the FIFA World Cup in America, and Euro Summer incoming. Flying overseas may require extreme flexibility and some imagination, picking transit points you've never thought of.
Some people I know are going via South Africa and some via the States.
More flights are coming out of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. At this stage, no word yet on when flights from Qatar might resume.
A man in his 50s has been attacked by a shark while snorkelling with friends this morning at Lady Elliot Island off Gladstone. He's been treated for lacerations to his abdomen, an arm and a hand. He was airlifted to Bundaberg Hospital in a stable condition. Lady Elliot Island has closed off snorkelling until further notice. It's not known what type of shark was responsible. North Queenslanders are being urged to brace for heavy rains. That's despite the risk of a tropical cyclone being downgraded. Mel Whiteman joins us now from Cairns. Mel, the Weather Bureau has replaced its cyclone watch with a severe weather warning.
Max, we're starting to see the impact of that system here this afternoon with the wind and rain now starting to pick up. Here at the Cairns Marina, boats are docked, trips out to the reef have been cancelled and visitors on Green Island have been ferried home as a precaution. The Weather Bureau says that it's now unlikely the tropical low will become a cyclone before it makes landfall, that people are still advised to be on alert with flood warnings from the top of the state down to south of Mackay. The weather system is still sitting well off the coast, off Port Douglas. At this stage, it is expected to cross around Cardwell tomorrow afternoon. It could potentially bring hundreds of millimetres of rain to already saturated areas, and emergency services have been pre-positioned.
We are looking at things like flash flooding, road closures and assisting people with flooding at this stage. Having said that, 90 to 100 kilometre-hour winds can easily knock over trees.
Max, it is the wet season here in North Queensland and locals say this is what they expect and what they are well prepared for.
Mel Whiteman in the state's far north. A major search operation is continuing for a Sunshine Coast surf lifesaver who disappeared while swimming yesterday afternoon. He was last seen entering the water near Warana at around 4:15.
The search and rescue operation continued well into the night and has resumed at first light again this morning.
Rough conditions have made searching for the 18-year-old difficult. Police have arrested a woman in relation to the death of a baby left in a car on Adelaide's northern suburbs. Emergency services were called to a home just before 8 o'clock last night when the 9-month-old boy was found unresponsive. It's believed the child had been accidentally left in the car for several hours before his mother realised and raised the alarm. A report will be prepared for the coroner. Accused Victorian High Country killer Greg Lynn has lost his bid to be granted bail ahead of a retrial for the alleged murder of an elderly camper. The former Jetstar pilot is accused of killing 73-year-old Carol Clay in March 2020. The Victorian Court of Appeal overturned his conviction in December, citing a substantial miscarriage of justice. The 59-year-old is seeking a permanent stay on the case. Queensland's e-bike and e-scooter market could be about to change drastically. A parliamentary inquiry has wrapped up recommending age limits and licensing requirements. Jade Richards has more.
The overwhelming reaction to the reforms seems to be positive. They certainly address safety concerns, but some say they may go too far. The Parliamentary Committee on E-Scooter and E-Bike Safety has made a total of 28 recommendations, the most polarising, limiting riders to 16 years and over and requiring them to at least have a learner's permit.
I could agree with that because some e-scooters can go really fast, almost as fast as Vespers.
It's probably going to end the viability of many of our public e-scooter and e-bike schemes.
Bicycle Queensland calls the requirement for a licence dumb, saying it bars more riders than necessary, like, for example, people who deliver for Uber Eats. Other recommendations include a clearer definition of what is an e-bike. Anything capable of doing more than 25 kilometres an hour would be classified as a motorbike, requiring that it be registered. The RACQ's submission to the inquiry suggested 23 reforms. It says 20 have been accepted. Among those that weren't, a push for hire scooters to have a seat and the requirement for riders to wear full-face helmets.
On the big issues of the scourge of illegal e-motorbikes and e-scooters on our roads and the footpaths, the inquiry report recommendations are spot on.
While the reforms are yet to be adopted, they've raised a question from parents. Will they be compensated for the bikes and scooters they've already bought for their children? More on that tonight at 6.
Just ahead, our weekly look at what's hot on the big and small screens. Does Frankenstein's monster find love in The Bride? And one of the most famous homes in television history becomes a historic monument.
When the world is changing and it impacts us, Australia turns to 7. Australia turns to trust. Chief Correspondent Chris Reason live from Tel Aviv from sunrise to 6 p.m. every night and special coverage
on 7 News.
Now to the latest in what's hot and what's not on the big and small screens. It's welcome as usual to Wenlei Ma, the culture critic with The Nightly. Wenlei, good to see you. Hot on the heels of Frankenstein comes The Bride. This is the second directorial effort from actress Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yes, I mean, isn't it just a Hollywood thing where if you make one thing, you got to make a second version of that same story? It is a little bit different. This is called The Bride, and it's about the bride of Frankenstein, who, you know, isn't often the center of that story. But here we've got Jessie Buckley, hotly tipped to win an Oscar in a couple of weeks' time. And here she is playing the bride of Frankenstein to Christian Bale's Frankenstein's monster. And it's kind of like a 1930s crime, Bonnie and Clyde epic and horror movie and body horror and all of these things all in one. And I think Maggie Gyllenhaal would really like it if we all went and saw this kind of big spectacle in a cinema.
I think the thing that's amazing about seeing movies in a theater is that you have an experience next to strangers in the dark. And if this movie is about, which it is, embracing the secret, monstrous sides inside of all of us, it's kind of a little bit of a radical action to do it in the dark next to a stranger.
I don't want to sit next to her in the cinema. What monster? Now, the smash hit TV series Peaky Blinders is getting the movie treatment.
Yeah, they've teased this for so long. Even I think before the TV show finished, like maybe a movie. Well, it's finally here. It's called Peaky Blinders: The Immortal Man, and you can see it in cinemas for the next 2 weeks. But it will then be on Netflix after that. But you know, like it's a little bit special, right? Just as Maggie Gyllenhaal said, to go and sit in a cinema next to people. Here we find Tommy Shelby, now in the midst of World War II. He's been a bit of a recluse, but he's been called back out into action, into the streets of Birmingham, when his son gets up to all kinds of trouble.
Well, still on the small screen, and she is so hard at work. Nicole Kidman has yet another series based on a successful series of novels.
Nicole Kidman is our hardworking girlie, and we should always be so proud of her. This is Scarpetta. It is an adaptation of Patricia Cornwell novels. It is a, very kind of dark, gritty, forensic crime thriller, and she's joined by Jamie Lee Curtis, Simon Baker, another Australian, of course. And it's, a story that kind of takes place in the present and also flashes back about 28 years into the past. And I actually have to say that the actors they cast to play the younger versions of these actors are so on point that I was just like almost doing a double take Googling what Nicole Kidman looked like when she was 28 years younger. It's incredible. But, this is a long gestating project, and Nicole has been kind of attached to it for a little bit. And it's great that it's finally come through, but here she is talking about it.
Kay Scarpetta came to me a long time ago. The script wasn't there, things weren't there yet. And then she came full circle and came back. So that's when you go, oh, okay, here she is, and I'm ready now. And we've found the right format to tell the story, and it's with the right people.
And finally, something from the DC universe. It's a different take on the Green Lantern.
It is. This is more of a neo-Western kind of gritty crime drama. People are making comparisons to, like, is this DC doing True Detective? You've got Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre playing these superheroes solving a murder mystery in a small town, and you've got these backdrops that are saying, hey, this is a murder mystery.
Wenli Ma from The Nightly. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to read more entertainment stories from Wenli, check out The Nightly. Well, it's been a calmer day on global markets, thank goodness, with the ASX bouncing back from yesterday's sharp sell-off. ING's James Tao has the latest.
Good afternoon. Global markets stabilised with a sense of calm returning after the recent sell-off, where the Aussie market shed over 3% in the past 2 days. The ASX 200 managed a small gain today, improving by 39 points or 0.4%. The local IT sector was a clear standout in leading the rebound following a tech-led bounce on Wall Street overnight. There were also gains from the heavyweight banking and healthcare names that did a fair bit of the heavy lifting. NAB led the big four banks higher, adding close to 1.5%, while biotech giant CSL added 2.5%. The materials sector was the main drag today as gold miners eased despite a pickup in the price of the precious metal, and BHP was also down, having traded ex-dividend today. The Aussie dollar gave up some of its earlier gains but continues to hover around 70.5 US cents.
Thanks, James. Well, it's one of the most familiar homes in television history, and now the Brady Bunch house has been given heritage status. The Los Angeles City Council has listed it as a historic cultural monument. It was bought in 2018 by America's Home and Garden Television Network and given a full Brady-era makeover inside. Just ahead, pop star Ed Sheeran helps launch a new food relief initiative and leaves his famous lasagna. In 7 News, the moment a US torpedo strikes an Iranian ship, plus fresh warnings about overseas travel. Inside an alleged gunman's Sunshine Coast rampage.
That guy's got a gun, eh? That guy's got a gun.
The big changes proposed for e-bikes and e-scooters explained. And new hope for skin cancer rates. 7 News at 6.
Good afternoon, Queensland. You're watching 7 News. Checking the weather now, and we've seen a bit more cloud building across the southeast this afternoon, and that's a precursor to another round of showers closing in on the radar. Expect this activity to move over land, probably break up a bit, but there's a few drops on the way this evening. Now, as we zoom out across Queensland, we have this low pressure system currently sitting about 200 kilometres off Cairns, with the heaviest rain north of Cairns at the moment. That system is expected to hit probably just south of Cairns tomorrow as a low, a very slim chance it would get to tropical cyclone by now. And well, we're looking at showers extending down towards southern Queensland with rain probably to the Capricornia by late tomorrow. Around the capitals tomorrow, Melbourne looking dry, a top of 24 degrees, a cloudy but dry weekend for the Formula One Grand Prix there. Back to northern Queensland, gusty winds about 80 k's an hour from Cairns to Townsville tomorrow. That's just below warning thresholds, but heavy rain is on the way. Severe weather warnings current. Heavy rain around Cairns and Townsville with steadier rain down towards the Whitsundays and Mackay. Over southern districts, scattered showers for the coast and ranges. Then we're looking at heavier rain over the weekend. For tomorrow, a top of 30 degrees in Bundaberg and Hervey Bay. In the southeast, plenty of showers overnight and through the course of the day, maybe just easing back later on. For the Gold Coast, sun's opening round game, 29 degrees there, and also in Brisbane. Now, the latest models are coming in. Max, I think there'll be a bit of a change for the southeast over the weekend. I'll have that full forecast coming up at 6.
All right, thanks, Tony. See you then. Pop star Ed Sheeran keeps popping up in some unexpected places. He's added his support and a lasagna recipe to an initiative serving food for the disadvantaged. Rochelle Brown reports from Melbourne.
Pop star Ed Sheeran has left his mark on Melbourne, helping launch a new initiative to help those facing hardship. The singer joined chefs at the Big Umbrella Foundation's Emergency Food Relief Centre in Brunswick on Wednesday to prepare his famous lasagna, one of several meals soon available at a range of ATM vending machines. The machines are designed to provide free, hot, nutritious meals for people experiencing homelessness or food insecurity.
It's quick, it's simple, and it directly supports someone who needs it. Thanks for being a part of this. I'm really proud to support the Big Umbrella Foundation, and I'm excited to see what progress this impact will have.
The first machine will be installed at Federation Square with a number to follow across the city.
Food insecurity is rife. I think 48% of people in the city of Melbourne are facing food insecurity at this point. So we're issuing free little tap cards that people get issued, and they get 1 meal a day on that card, and they come up and they tap it on the machine and they get access to a free meal. We hope to get it at Melbourne Town Hall, down at Southern Cross Station, down at South Bank, places like that.
Just one of several stops on Ed Sheeran's Melbourne tour. The singer also surprised patients with an impromptu performance at the Royal Children's Hospital. The pop star performs in Adelaide tonight, but the work at the foundation continues long after.
That's Queensland's afternoon news for this Thursday. Stay with us now for The Chase, then 7 News at 6. I'll see you then.